The commutative and identity properties. Okay, there's two of these. There's one for addition and one for multiplication. So the commutative property of addition, and then you also have the commutative property of multiplication. Now, you should already know that when you add numbers like 2 plus 1, it doesn't matter in which order you add them in. For instance, 2 plus 1, or you could do 1 plus 2. You're still going to get the answer of 3. Same thing with multiplication. It doesn't really matter what order you multiply numbers in. For example, 2 times 3 is going to give you the same answer as 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, this is actually the commutative properties of addition and multiplication. So the commutative properties. There's also the identity properties, which identity properties of addition and multiplication. Addition and multiplication. And basically what the identity property of addition is any number plus 0 is the same number. So for example, 2 plus 0, any number, so 2, it will be any number, plus 0 equals the same number, so it equals 2. And we can represent that with a plus 0. So a could be any number, it's a variable, is going to equal a. So a plus 0 is going to equal a. And that's the identity property of addition. Now there's also the identity property of multiplication, and what that says is that any number times 1 is the same number. So for example, 2 times 1 is going to equal 2. And we could represent that as a times 1 is going to equal a. Okay, so the identity property of addition is any number plus 0 is the same number. And then the identity property of multiplication is any number times 1 is the same number. Okay, now let's go back up to the commutative properties and represent those with letters. So if you wanted to represent that with a letter, addition would be a plus b is the same thing as b plus a. So it doesn't matter which order you add them in. And this is the commutative properties. And then multiplication would be a times b is going to be the same thing as b times a. Okay, now let's there's also another property that is when you divide a number by itself, it's going to be 1. So a over a equals 1. Okay, so that's good with any number other than 0. A cannot be 0 because you can't divide a number by 0. But any other number besides 0, if you put it over itself, it's going to equal 1. And that's going to be important in algebra to understand, because we're going to use that quite a bit. So, for example, 2 over 2 equals 1, or 3 over 3, or 4 over 4, or negative 2 over negative 2 would be 1. So any number, it can be positive or negative, If it's over itself, it's going to equal 1. So you have, oh, and then any of these things would be considered equivalent expressions. So 2 plus 0 is an equivalent expression to 2. Okay, or 2 plus 1 is an equivalent expression to 1 plus 2. Okay, those are equivalent. So that just means that they equal each other. So anytime you can put an equal sign between two things and it ends up being true, that means that those two things are equal or equivalent expressions. Okay, so that's basically it for commutative and identity properties, and then this extra one with properties of 1 when you have a number over itself.